The Human Digestive System by Catherine White. This presentation is going to look at the human digestive system, how it works, and how processes of mechanical and chemical digestion are involved. It will also look at the food groups which are important to maintain a healthy and balanced diet. So first of all, to look at the human digestive system structure. The function of the digestive system is to digest and absorb the food that we eat. The food enters the body through our mouth. This is known as ingestion. Our digestive system then goes through a series of processes that it can be absorbed in the body. The waste then leaves the body through the anus, known as excretion. In more detail, the mouth chews the food and mixes it with saliva, called mastication, to make it into a bolus. The pharynx receives the food from the mouth and pushes it over the epiglottis into the esophagus. It goes from the diaphragm into the stomach to help the food travel downwards. The liver is responsible for producing bile, and the gallbladder stores the bile until it is needed for digesting the fats within the body. The muscles in the stomach churn the food and mix it with gastric juices to make it into chyme. The small intestines turn the chyme alkaline and mixes it with pancreatic juice and small intestinal juice until digestion is complete and sends the residue into the large intestine. The chyme in the large intestine is mixed with good bacteria and removes the nutrients and the water. The rectum stores the faeces, and the anus is the end of the digestive system and excretes the faeces. While going through the digestive system, our food takes on an enormous job. Along its way, it helps to produce energy and nutrients by being absorbed into our body. Our mouth begins the process of digestion by chewing the food and mixing it with the saliva, breaking it down into a form which can be absorbed into the body. The tongue helps to chew the food and to swallow the food. The esophagus receives the food from the mouth and uses a series of muscular contractions called peristalsis to transport the food to the stomach. The lower esophageal sphincter relaxes to let food out and contracts to stop it flowing back. The stomach stores the food while mixing it with enzymes to break it down into a usable form. When they are processed enough, the stomach releases it into the small intestines. The small intestine is approximately 22 foot long and it is made up of 3 parts: the duodenum, the jejunum and the ileum. It uses more enzymes from the pancreas and bile from the liver to further process the breakdown of the food. The contents enter the small intestine in a semi-solid form and leave it in a liquid form. Once the nutrients and food have been absorbed, the residue liquid is passed through into the large intestine. The large intestine, also known as the colon, its job is to process the waste so that the bowels can open easily. It is 6 foot long and is made up of 4 parts. It takes approximately 36 hours for a stool to form and to pass through the colon into the rectum. The stool mainly consists of bacteria and food debris. The stool is passed to the rectum, which is 8 inches in length. When the rectum is ready, the sphincters relax and contract so that the stool can be released. The anus is the final stage of digestion. It uses pelvic floor muscles to stop the stool from releasing when it's not supposed to, and relaxes the sphincter when it is ready to release. So looking at mechanical and chemical digestion, mechanical digestion is the physical breaking down of the food in which we eat into smaller pieces. This begins in the mouth as we chew and continues through to the stomach. Peristalsis is part of the mechanical side and it occurs in the esophagus, the stomach and the intestines. Chemical digestion uses digestive enzymes to break food down further into more simpler nutrients which can be absorbed into the body and used by the cells. The chemical bonds which hold the food together are broken so that the food is in smaller, more digestible parts. Without chemical digestion, nutrients would not be able to be absorbed into the body and this could lead to malnutrition. What are the optimum conditions for enzymes to work? For enzymes to do their job, there are 3 optimum conditions. These are temperature, pH, and substrate concentration. Enzymes work best in warm conditions, and the optimum temperature is 35 to 40 degrees Celsius. Each enzyme will have a different pH as to what it works best to. For example, pepsin is 2.5, whereas catalase is 9. There needs to be a high enough substrate concentrate for the enzyme to catalyse. However, it is worth noting that once the optimum substrate concentrate is reached, the enzyme activity will not continue. How do some of the enzymes work? Pepsin. This is found within the gastric juices in the stomach. It is a powerful enzyme which digests proteins such as dairy products and meats and turns them into peptides. The pepsin is then absorbed into the bloodstream. The ideal pH for pepsin is 1.5 to 2. The optimum temperature is 37 to 42 degrees Celsius, and the substrate it requires is the protein itself. Amylase. This is found within two parts of the body, saliva and the pancreas. Salivary amylase breaks down starch into smaller molecules called maltose. Pancreatic amylase produces glucose, which is then absorbed into the bloodstream for energy. The ideal pH for amylase is 7, and the optimum temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. The substrate it requires is the starch itself. So if we have a look at the constituent food groups of a balanced diet, to survive, the body needs the following nutrients: vitamins, minerals, fats, proteins, carbohydrates and water. But it is also important to ensure that we are getting the right proportions of each to ensure that our diet is healthy and balanced. For our body to be healthy and balanced, it is important that we eat the right amounts of the right food types. So fruit and vegetables such as apples and broccoli should be eaten in larger amounts and will provide us with vitamins, minerals and fibre. We should also be eating a good amount of starchy foods such as bread, rice and potatoes, and this will provide us with our carbohydrates. Protein foods like meat and fish will give us proteins, fats, minerals and vitamins, but these should be more limited in amounts. It is also important to us to limit the amount dairy products, including milk and cheese, enrich us with proteins, fats, minerals such as calcium. Foods high in fats and sugar, like crisps and biscuits, should be limited to small amounts. Although it is not a food, it is also important that we have enough water intake. Thank you.